Two of Rudy Giuliani's associates were arrested last night as support for impeachment rises in the polls. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. Over the last few weeks, we've seen support for impeaching President Trump skyrocket by double digits, and it really feels like a potentially seismic political shift is happening right now. In fact, even Fox News, the network Trump loves the most, released a damning new poll yesterday showing that a majority of registered voters not only want Trump impeached, they want him removed from office completely.
A new Fox poll just out shows more than half of registered voters who were asked support impeachment.
Our brand new Fox News poll, the headline, more than half of those polled, 51%, want President Trump impeached and removed from office.
Damn, and that's a Fox News poll. So you know they only called landlines, CB radios, and VFW halls. Fox News is what Trump watches to feel good about himself. That's like if a kid turned on Sesame Street and Big Bird was just smoking a cigarette going, "Face it, kid, you're never gonna learn how to spell." Now, of course, to make himself feel better, Trump likes to periodically hold a campaign rally with his remaining fans where he reels off a bunch of unhinged nonsense, and that's what he did tonight after we taped this show in Minneapolis, or at least I think he went to Minneapolis. Yesterday, he had some trouble saying the name of the city.
I want to also thank the Minneapolis Police Department.
That's right, he's going to Minneapolis, which I believe is in Mindiana. He sounds like Siri giving you directions after having a few too many glasses of wine with dinner.
You have arrived in Minneapolis.
But when he's not basking in the adoration of his most fawning admirers at his unhinged rallies, Trump is apparently freaking out about losing support among Republicans in Congress. In fact, he's so worried about Republicans in the Senate turning on him that he's been calling Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell nonstop to lock down Republican support.
New indications of just how seriously President Trump is now taking the impeachment inquiry and how seriously he's pushing to keep Republican senators, potential jurors, remember, in line.
One of the things we've learned is that the president is so consumed with this impeachment inquiry that he's now calling Senator McConnell as many as 3 times a day.
3 times a day? Is he trying to keep McConnell in line or stalk him? Mitch, we're best friends, Mitch, aren't we, Mitch? Mitch, do you like my new haircut, Mitch? I'm just like you, Mitch. I'm just like you. Trump, of course, is freaking out because every day we learn more about the scheme Trump and his gang of mafia-themed Pez dispensers concocted to get Ukraine to dig up dirt on Joe Biden. Now, Trump has been insisting that his phone call with Ukraine's president, in which he dangled hundreds of millions of dollars in military aid and in return told the president of Ukraine, "I would like you to do us a favor," though, was not just appropriate, but perfect. He's literally said or tweeted that specific word dozens of times.
The conversation I had with the president of Ukraine was absolutely perfect. The conversation, by the way, was absolutely perfect. It was a perfect conversation. It was perfect.
The call was perfect. That was a perfect conversation.
Just so you know, the call was perfect. It was perfect. It was perfect.
The call was a perfect call. It was a perfect call. Perfect call.
I had a perfect phone call with the president of Ukraine. Perfect. The call was a perfect call. The conversation was, I think, a perfect conversation. That call was perfect.
I think he's trying to drive us all insane. Hearing a grown man describe a phone call as perfect over and over and over again feels like an elaborate form of torture. I feel like I should be strapped to a chair in a basement with voices whispering from the shadows.
The call was perfect. It was a perfect call. It was perfect. It was perfect.
All right, I'll tell you what you want to know. Just stop calling a phone call perfect. Nobody says that. Seriously, I'm almost certain that no one in the history of the English language has ever called a phone call perfect before. Think of the greatest phone call you've ever had in your life. You've never hung up the phone and gone, "Damn! That was perfect!" Woo! Woo! I mean, I rescheduled that dentist appointment like a mother. I mean, he's talking about a phone call like it was an event at the Olympics. "Okay, talk to you soon. Judges?" Yes. So Trump has insisted the call was perfect, and yet once again yesterday, Fox News' poll showed that the vast majority of registered voters definitely do not think it was perfect.
The Fox News poll also gauged voters' reaction to what President Trump said on his phone call with his Ukrainian counterpart regarding possible pressure put on Ukraine to investigate the Bidens. 43% say it's an impeachable offense.
If Trump can't rely on Fox News to make himself feel better, what can he watch? His aides are going to have to replace his TV with a mirror and hope he doesn't notice. Have you guys seen this show? It's pretty good. Wait, what were you looking at? Get in here, guys! So now that Trump is freaking out about the growing support for impeachment in the polls, he's throwing as many people as he can under the bus. Last week, for example, Trump tried to pin the blame for the Ukraine phone call on his energy secretary, Rick Perry, claiming it was Perry's idea to make the call in the first place. But then we found out yesterday that Trump ordered Perry and 2 State Department officials to coordinate with his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, as part of the scheme to extort Ukraine and get them to gin up politically motivated investigations.
2 sources tell CNN that President Trump directed his energy secretary, Rick Perry, and 2 top State Department officials to circumvent official channels and to have his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, deal with a potential meeting with the Ukrainian president.
So Trump concocted a scheme to dangle hundreds of millions of dollars in military aid to Ukraine as part of a quid pro quo to get them to dig up dirt on a political opponent. And to carry out this plan, he chose as his henchmen Rick Perry and Rudy Giuliani, who are famously 2 of the dumbest people in politics. It's like if Lex Luthor hatched a plan to kill Superman and chose as his assassins Mr. Bean and Woody from Cheers. You ready to do this? All right, I'll take the front, you take the back, Bean. And then today, things got much, much worse for Rudy when 2 of his associates who'd been working with him as part of the scheme to dig up dirt on Biden were arrested and charged with breaking campaign finance laws.
We begin with breaking news this hour. 2 associates of Rudy Giuliani arrested this morning, due in court in Virginia later today, facing criminal charges for violating campaign finance laws. And it really all has to do with Ukraine.
Their names are Igor Fruman and Lev Parnas, and they were arrested at a Washington airport with what prosecutors say were one-way tickets out of the country.
Rudy Giuliani has previously stated that he has worked with the 2 men on efforts to get Ukraine to investigate former Vice President Joe Biden.
I can't believe a guy who looks like a vampire had a henchman named Igor. Is this a Mary Shelley novel? What was Igor's job? To open Rudy's coffin? Master, arise! Now, the danger for Rudy and for Trump is that these guys might flip on them and give prosecutors more evidence about their scheme. And now that 2 of his close associates have been arrested and charged with crimes, Rudy might be regretting the fact that he's been all over TV blabbing about his involvement in all of this. In fact, here are some of Rudy's greatest and most nonsensical highlights from just the last few weeks.
Did you read the transcript?
Let's say it was read to me.
It was read to you, the whole thing?
I hope.
Shut up, moron.
Shut up.
Okay, hold on.
Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. Bill Clinton asked me, what's this guy Romney like? You know what I told him? He's our Al Gore.
All right, Rudy, hold that thought.
Here's Kurt saying, great, I will tell Yermak, and he'll visit with you there, thanks.
Biden's going to Spartacus. By the way, Biden's been off the trail.
They're supported by 3 affidavits. The guy was under investigation.
Let me just tell the audience.
The guy bankrupted a...
Let me just tell the audience.
He's selling. How
James
about
Biden.
this?
Oh, no. I don't want to move on yet.
Here's another one. I don't know about it. I didn't hear it.
Forget the whistleblower. We have the transcript of the call and the president's remarks.
I want you to keep your eye on Romania. Just watch Romania. But just watch Romania. We go to China. I told you about Romania. We haven't moved to Romania yet. Wait until we get to Romania.
Well, I definitely can't wait until you get to Romania. It's probably a short trip from there back to where you live in Transylvania. Also, by the way, remember those papers Rudy was holding up in that one clip claiming that they were affidavits that proved his allegations? Well, according to BuzzFeed, they weren't. They were pages printed from an obscure right-wing conspiracy theory website. So the president's personal lawyer, a man who was at the center of an impeachment inquiry and an allegedly criminal scheme to extort a foreign country to dig up dirt on a political opponent, is an insane old man who goes on TV and waves around printouts from conspiracy websites. Next time, he's just going to bring the printer test page. Now, the yellow line is Ukrainian military, and then the red line is money that Hunter Biden made. It's all right here. And while Republicans entertain While Republicans entertain these insane fantasies, the whistleblower who first alerted us to Trump's phone call keeps coming forward with more actual evidence, as we found out yet again yesterday.
CBS News has learned that according to a memo by the whistleblower, a White House official who listened in on the call to Ukraine's president described the call as crazy, frightening, and completely lacking in substance related to national security.
The official was visibly shaken by what had transpired, and in the official's view, the president had clearly committed a criminal act.
Wow, that is damning. When he heard that, Trump immediately ran out of the White House and tried to escape to
Minneapolis.
Now, seeing that more evidence is emerging and that support for impeachment is rising in the polls, Trump is trying to take as many people down with him, while his inner circle tries to do everything they can to distance themselves from the scandal. For example, you might remember that Trump dragged Vice President Mike Pence into his mess when he told reporters to look at Pence's conversations with the president of Ukraine. And then the Washington Post reported that Trump involved Pence in his efforts to pressure Ukraine's leaders. So yesterday, reporters asked Pence how much he knew about the scheme, and Pence wouldn't give a straight answer.
Well, were you ever aware, Mr. Vice President, that interest in the Bidens, that interest in investigating the Bidens was at least in part of the reason for aid to Ukraine being held up?
I never discussed the issue of the Bidens with President Zelensky, and
you ever aware of within the administration?
what I can tell you is that all of our discussions internally.
But you were aware of the interest in the Bidens being investigated. And that being tied to aid to Ukraine being held up.
Well, that's your question. Let me be very clear. The issue of aid and our efforts with regard to Ukraine were, from my experience, in no way connected.
What you need to know from me about this is I don't want to go to jail. Hey, Mike Pence. I can't believe I'm saying this, but maybe you should let Rudy handle this one. And he's probably working on his Pence impression right now. In fact, given that 2 people have now been arrested and that support for impeachment is rising in the polls, my legal advice for all of these guys would be very simple.
Shut up, moron. Shut up.
This has been a closer look.